Yeah. All right. Well, we've been doing a little review in the last week or two, and we got partway through the textbook in chapter 20 on verbal roots, and we'll pick up with the halftime review tonight and go forward in the textbook to talk about a few other miscellaneous things before we get into the exercises. So the halftime review on page 213 of the textbook. The root of a verb is the most basic form. The stem of a verb is the basic form of that verb in a particular tense. Now, you probably remember that when we were talking about present tense, we were only looking at the stem because that stem in many verbs is not the same as the root. The root we're beginning to see is the more basic of the parts of the verb. So let's try to think of root as being more all-encompassing. The stem of the present tense verb is probably the most irregular. I know Mounts doesn't like to use that term, but it's modified more than other tenses. Okay, second bullet point, all verbs form their tense stems from their root, not their present tense stem. The present tense stem is the most irregular of all tenses. You just one example is the verb ballo with two lambdas. That's B-A-L-L is the present tense stem, but the root is has B-A-L, just one lambda. And that's the most basic. And you'll see that in several of the other tenses. In pattern 2 verbs, different roots are used to form the different tense stems. Previous to this chapter, we've seen only one root, and that was the present tense root that was not modified. But now pattern 2, you have different roots used to form the different tense stem. But then in pattern 3, which is liquid verbs, he says, their stems end in a liquid. There are 4 liquid consonants: lambda, mu, nu, and rho. Actually, mu and nu are technically nasals, not liquids, but they behave like liquids, so they're grouped together. Lambda and rho are liquids because the air, when you form that sound, flows around the side of the tongue. In pattern, let's see, these liquid verbs use epsilon sigma as a future tense formative. Now, in chapter 19, we were taught that the sigma is the tense formative, but that's true for pattern 1 verbs. But pattern 3 verbs, the liquid futures, form their tense formative is epsilon sigma, but the sigma drops out before the connecting vowel, and the vowels contract. The connecting vowel is epsilon, and the ending sometimes begins with a vowel, so the sigma doesn't like to be between vowels, so it drops out, and then the 2 vowels contract. And it looks as if the verb were a present tense epsilon contract. Sometimes the stem vowel changes in the future. Okay, as we get into the exercises, we'll see examples of it, and hopefully that'll clear things up.
Okay.
So
Carl,
quick question.
All right.
The connecting vowel for
Because we're looking at future. I mean, so is the connecting vowel for future and present either omicron or epsilon?
Yes.
Okay.
And that's that connecting vowel, either epsilon or omicron. When the sigma drops out, it contracts with the ending.
And is that connecting vowel just dependent on what word it is, or is there
Um,
a pattern there?
There seems to be a pattern with probably most verbs that in the first singular, the connecting vowel is omicron. In the second and third singular, it's epsilon.
Right.
First
Okay.
plural, it's omicron. Second plural, epsilon. Third plural, omicron.
Yeah.
That
Okay.
seems to be a pattern, if not all, most of the verbs that we've been looking at.
Got it. Okay. Thank you. And so either, and that's true in both future and present.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Okay. And so these liquids behave similarly in terms of those contractions, whether it's future or present.
Or present, that's right.
Okay.
I have a question about the last statement on that last bullet. Sometimes the stem vowel changes in the future. I'm not sure what that's saying because I wouldn't know which stem vowel. So, I mean, for example, on the previous page in 20.9, it has some examples. And in this case, it doesn't change. I take it the stem is, the future stem is men.
Yes.
And is it saying that there are some verbs for which the epsilon would change to something else? Is that what that says?
Let me make sure I understand your question.
Yeah, that's that sentence. Sometimes the stem vowel changes in the future. I don't know what.
Where's the statement?
It's at the bottom of page 213, the last bullet point.
Yeah, last sentence of that paragraph.
Okay. Sometimes the stem vowel
I
changes.
don't understand what that means.
Well, when it says future, you've got 6 possibilities: first, second, third singular, and first, second, third plural. So,
Okay, but he's saying the stem. Well, all right.
the stem
You're
vowel.
saying, well, what's the stem vowel? That's what I'm not understanding.
Well,
Is he talking about the connecting?
let's look at second singular.
And we're looking at men.
Yeah.
Minnow.
20.9, page
Okay.
211. Second singular. Epsilon is the, just a minute, let me make sure. Epsilon is the connecting vowel.
Okay.
And I think he's calling that the stem vowel there.
But see, that's what I didn't understand.
Stem vowel, I think, and connecting vowel are 2 different terms for the same thing.
Okay.
Okay.
That's confusing because he talks about a future active tense stem plus a stem formative and then a connecting vowel.
The tense formative.
Tense formative.
Yeah, tense formative and then a connecting vowel. Okay, I mean, that's what I'm saying. This doesn't make any sense. Is he talking then about the connecting vowel? Could be omicron or epsilon?
I think that's what he's saying. Yeah.
Okay, all right. Well, that makes sense, and I think we saw that in the example somewhere, or it seemed that way.
Yeah. In that gray shaded area under 20.8, I think that's probably the most helpful thing. Man is the stem. Excuse me, the root.
Yeah. Okay.
And then you've got the epsilon sigma tense formative for the liquids futures.
Right.
And then you add the connecting vowel or the stem vowel, I think is another term for it, which is the omicron. He's given us the first plural.
That's fine. He says Omicron is now, is that not true for all of these?
Well, if you're looking at third singular, for
Right,
instance, the
right.
connecting vowel would be epsilon.
That's okay, agreed. It looks that way to me
Or
without going
second
through a lot of
plural
work.
would be epsilon.
Okay, thank you.
But
Thank you.
Okay,
That
so
answers
then the epsilon of the tense formative and the Omicron connecting vowel
Okay,
kind of sandwich
Okay.
the sigma. It
okay.
doesn't like to be there, so
So,
epsilon contracts with Omicron,
okay,
and you get ooh.
yeah, we're having a contraction. And just look, for me, it's hard to track without a lot of work what contractions happened. And so thank you. That's all I wanted to understand is it
Okay.
wasn't clear to me what that meant. And he's really talking about the connecting vowel.
Mhm.
And I'm going to put that in the book, connecting.
It would help to
Thank you.
have consistent terminology.
Yes, I'm not going to complain overly anymore.
Okay.
All right.
Now,
No,
going
fair,
forward,
fair question.
okay.
No,
Are
no,
you-
that's, no,
are you
we're good.
okay?
We're good. I was just saying Dad's question seemed quite reasonable.
Yeah, it is. Let's go forward, page 214, 20.17. Pattern 4. Roots are modified in regular ways in the formation of their tense stem. In most cases, knowing the pattern is sufficient for recognizing an inflected form. However, in a few cases, it may be easier to memorize a certain form. These roots fall into the 3 basic subpatterns. I'm getting into an area where some students have struggled. You have 2 options, and your teacher will have made a decision here for you. You can either memorize the patterns, or you can memorize all the tense forms of all the verbs that fall into this category. Even if you choose the latter, please be sure to see the patterns. They will help in your memorization. Let's wait and see some of these examples before we make that decision. But remember that the change made to the root in the formation of its present tense stem are not reflected in its other tense stems. The root will clearly be visible in the future tense stem and elsewhere, like the aorist. Okay, A, first of the 3 subpatterns, roots in a stop. Roots that follow this pattern end in a stop. And I think what he means by a stop is a consonant that stops the flow of breath.
Like you talked about before.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But unlike the roots in pattern 1, these roots are modified in the formation of their present tense stem. Okay, pattern 1 was a verb like that was not modified in its present tense, like luo. That's one of the most basic. Luo is the root, it's also the stem. But here, we've got idzo and adzo verbs. If the present tense stem of a verb ends in idzo or adzo, its root actually ends in a dental, tau, delta, or theta. For example, baptizo is from the root baptid. And you can kind of hear the delta in the Z when you pronounce it z, like a DZ.
Yeah, right.
And that happens when the zeta is not the beginning consonant. It, like zao is, it's an alpha contract, meaning I live. And that you don't pronounce the D in that zeta. But when it occurs in the middle or at the end of a word, it's pronounced DZ. And that's probably because the root has a dental, either tau, delta, or theta. The final letter of the verbal root was changed to zeta to form the present tense stem, footnote 6. Advanced information section for an explanation. I think we'll hold off on that. It forms the future as baptizo, baptid plus so becomes baptizo. The delta drops out, which is totally regular.
Okay.
Remember, dentals drop out before a sigma according to the square of stops. You remember how the sigma affects those consonants? We could look back at
Yeah.
that square of stops, but it's there.
Just so I'm not confused, I'm just,
All right.
because so in the future tense, we have this dropping out because of the square of stops rules,
Because of the sigma
following the delta.
following the dental.
delta.
Yeah.
Yeah. But in the present tense, we don't have any such consonant combination.
We don't
just
have the sigma tense formative.
right. So there's no consonant thing going on with it. It just we change it.
Yeah.
We just change it.
Mhm.
Okay. All right.
Well, the sigma doesn't touch the delta.
Well, that's right. There's no sigma involved. It would
Right.
be a delta, but we just change it
Mhm.
to a zeta. Okay.
Another subpattern, alpha subpattern, is also verbs. Alpha double sigma omega. If the present tense stem of a verb ends in also, its root actually ends in a velar, either kappa, gamma, or chi. For example, tarasso, I trouble, is from the root tarak. The final letter of the verb root was changed to sigma sigma to form the present tense stem. Again, footnotes. We'll do it later. It forms the future as taraxo. The chi plus the sigma combine to form a xi. Can you see that?
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry. I know I read this.
Let's look at the square of stops.
Well, I'm just, no, hang on. I need to
All right.
digest this better. I don't know why. So if it ends in an osso, its root is actually in a velar. All right. And he's saying present tense stem ends in osso. Its root actually ends in a velar.
Yeah.
For
Kappa,
example,
gamma, or chi.
so let's look at tarasso. Is
Yeah.
from the root tarach.
Tarak.
Okay.
That's a velar.
I'm just trying to, okay, tarach, and the tense stem. So, all right. Whoops.
So the key,
Final letter in the root is changed to sigma sigma to form the present tense stem. Now, okay, so the square of stop says
a key plus a sigma becomes a xi. Also, a kappa plus a sigma becomes a xi.
C.
So does a gamma plus a sigma become a xi. Unlike the delta, the sigma doesn't cause it to drop out.
All right, maybe some example. I'm sorry. Somehow all right, Zach, am I alone in this? I'm having a little trouble with seeing this because why? Okay, so the root is tarak, and but the present tense stem is taras.
Tarasso.
The stem, no,
present tense stem
would be taras.
Taras.
Why? Is it just so, or is there actually something that happened?
Just a minute.
This is what I'm not. We're talking about the square of stops and things, but I'm really not tracking this. How did it become sigma sigma? When we just heard that if I combine any of these things with a sigma, the sigma goes away. I'm confused.
I don't know if you can say take the root and look at it and make the present tense stem become aso. But if you have an aso verb in the present, it came from the tarak plus the sigma.
Okay, so it's really not, it's not that the square of stops tells us it works this way. It's
No.
just so.
Yeah,
Okay, all right, that's fair.
I would
Yeah.
like to refresh our
That's all
memory
right.
by looking at the square of
Yeah,
stops
that's
again.
fine. And it's on our blue cheat sheet
Yeah,
too.
that's
And
a good
actually
place
pretty
to
well
look.
summarized. So if we had a key, a kappa, gamma, or key,
Oh, this,
then it would become, okay, we're getting there maybe. A kappa, gamma, or a key plus a sigma becomes a zeta, right? No, what the sigma, isn't that?
No, it becomes like C. That's like
Oh, it's a
C,
C. I'm sorry, it's
yeah.
C. I have trouble seeing the difference.
That's
It becomes like C, yeah.
It's got one more squiggle.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
know.
Looks like a
Exceed.
hair on the page.
okay. Then dentals, which he hasn't talked about.
Right,
here
right.
yet.
So how did, so all right, I can follow that statement. And he talks about the future is tarak, tarakso, right?
Yes.
And that, okay, forgive me, but this is rather confusing
Yeah, I
because it
know.
looks as if the future tense was formed somehow from the present stem. But that's not what, no, because in the square of stops, a key plus a sigma becomes a, yeah, it becomes a C.
Yeah.
All right, now I'm following. I'm finally following what the square of stops has to do with it.
Okay.
Okay. Did that help, Zach? I hope it was not.
Yeah, he's using it by way of explaining how it is that it's perfectly regular in the future tense,
In the future tense, but the
it's
present
not in the
tense,
present tense.
the
Yeah.
present tense has nothing to do with this. It just is.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
right,
I
thank
think
you.
that's the point of this, the whole section in general.
Okay.
Right?
Then the second
Maybe.
sub pattern is double consonants, and we saw that already with balo.
Mhm.
Present tense stems that end with a double consonant are often from roots with a single consonant, excluding the aso verbs. We just talked about the aso verbs.
Excluding. Oh, I'm sorry. What did you just read?
Well,
yeah, gotcha.
okay. For example, balo is from the root bal. The double lambda only appears in the present tense stem. Single lambda is found in the other tenses.
Gotcha.
And then the third sub pattern of this pattern 4 is some roots add a letter or letters to form the present tense stem. The added letter will not appear in the other tenses. First bullet point. Question?
Is it just me, or did he kind of smuggle two patterns into pattern A?
Yeah, he did.
Okay, all right.
It's on aso verbs and aso verbs.
Yeah, it seems like different patterns to me that are related to the square of stops.
Mhm.
Okay.
But the relationship to the square of stops really doesn't seem. The square of stops seems to apply in general in this language.
Mhm.
If you have these consonants come together, that's what happens.
Mhm.
And he's giving it to us to explain how it is that the future tense is regular.
Yeah,
And he's telling us that it has an exceptional irregular present tense.
yeah.
So that's why it's the same case.
You can't start with
But
the
they're really
root
two. Yeah.
and get back to
To the
the
present
present tense
yeah.
stem.
And I think that, okay, I think I'm getting this now,
Yeah.
Zach, right?
Okay, then the first bullet point under C is the iota. Some roots add an iota to form the present tense stem. The root of this verb is, of the verb iro, is R, alpha rho. But the iota doesn't occur at the end after the rho, it occurs between the alpha and the rho in the present tense. But in the future liquid, see, rho is a liquid, you don't have the iota. So it's just R plus the ending.
Okay.
And another example of this kind of thing is the isco or isk verbs. Some roots add a sigma kappa or iota sigma kappa if the stem ends in a consonant to form the present tense stem. Apothon is the present tense stem.
So it's isk.
Also, hold on, I'm having trouble.
Theta sigma. Oh my God. What kind of
I'm sorry, I'm drawing a blank. My mind is not in gear right now. The future liquid looks like the same as the present tense stem. Future liquid, the root. But
yeah.
let's see if the footnotes help. For an explanation of how the root was altered to form the present tense, see 20.21. Oh, that's down below. Apothon. He's got that alpha in blue.
That?
You've already seen in some nouns that the vowels can change their length or even drop out. Pater becomes pater, and then patras. The same can happen with verbs. For example, the root of apothon loses its stem, alpha, in the formation of the present tense stem, and then adds an eta and an iota sigma kappa. Okay, the alpha in the apothon, it's dropped out to, this is the first step.
All right. Is it okay, I'm sorry,
The
but where
verb-
did we get the eta from? I mean, he tells us there's an eta. Is
It
this a
just
pattern
adds
we
it.
should know?
Well, this is a very common verb, apothnesco. I think it's,
I'm just wondering if it's a pattern that we've already is that pattern 1? I didn't think it was, but I don't.
no, this is all pattern 4.
Yeah, no, but I'm just wondering where the eta come from because I don't think we've seen an eta added as a connecting
No,
vowel.
it's not a connecting vowel.
Okay.
Alpha is a connecting vowel.
Oh, what?
This comes after the theta nu.
He's telling us that the stem is apathon.
Yeah.
Oh no, it's not. Okay.
Just a minute. Let me look for something here.
He's got 2 arrows in that one. Actually, his apathon is
Apothnesco.
apathon is apothn without an alpha?
Yeah, because you're adding the theta nu is a double consonant or consonant cluster. That's the term.
Okay.
Because the alpha dropped out, putting them together.
Why did it drop out?
Well, that's just what this pattern does.
He says it loses its alpha.
Yeah. It loses its alpha to form the present tense stem. Let me find.
All right. He makes this like it's math or something, but there's nothing mathematical about it. It's just a thing that happened.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, this is not a pattern that happens to everything. This is what this.
So we were back here in the ISK things, and now he's explaining the ISK thing, which
this is,
there's two things going on in his ISK example,
yeah,
right? Which is why when I looked at the results of present went to this other thing, I couldn't understand why it had an eta in there at all. So that's down here, and the alpha went away. Okay, so how about the next one? Back for the ISK, he has GNO
yeah, GNO, yeah,
plus becomes GNOSCO. Okay, that one seems like it fits that pattern.
yeah,
But the other one, the apothon,
Apothnesco, yeah,
Apothenesco is following two patterns. There's two things going on to it. Yeah. All right.
Okay, so apothon is kind of not a very helpful example potentially.
no, it's not.
No, I mean he could have left that one off until the next example, which actually has both things going on, right?
Um,
Vowels drop out. And he has pater in the nouns. We learned pater versus pater versus petos.
yeah,
Petros. Sorry.
he's giving an example in
Yeah,
the noun system
right.
where
That's right.
vowels change
That's right.
or drop out.
And this happens in some verbs.
Mhm. Just a minute, I want to find this thing I was looking for.
Okay.
Chapter 22.
Is this an exhaustive list of all these verbs?
Oh, no.
I mean, what I mean is it an exhaustive, isn't it an exhaustive list of the patterns of all these irregular verbs?
I'm not sure it is, but for this
So for
first
these
year
are
grammar,
patterns that we might want to recognize.
yeah, since apothnesco, which means I die, this is a very common verb in the New Testament.
Okay.
We're going to see it a lot in the verbs we translate.
You will seek me, but you will die in your sin.
Yeah.
Sorry. From the Gospel of John.
Oh, these are okay, hold on. These are liquid futures. We are in the chapter where we introduced that, right? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Here's something that might help a little bit. In the back of the book, in the appendix, page 451, is where he lists all the verbs we're going to encounter in the New Testament that occur 50 times or more.
Right.
Apothnesco is one of those. It's the second one on top of page 451. It's got a helpful footnote. Footnote 2. Apothon, you see below the line there, apothon is the root. Apothnesco is the present tense lexical form. It's a compound verb, apo plus thon. See the asterisk there? That's his identifier for the root. As you can see by the augment in the aorist active, skip that. If you recognize that the root is apothon, knowing how it was altered in the present tense is not essential. But in case you want to know, in the formation of the present tense, the alpha has dropped out due to a blout. Eta and isk were added, and the iota subscripts. Apothon, the first step is get rid of the alpha, apothna. And then add the eta, apothne, and then add the isk, apothnesk, apothne-isk, and then subscript the iota under the eta. Subscript the iota under the eta, yeah, apothnesco. He's trying to show us that it's a regular formation. And there are probably other verbs, maybe not that occur 50 times or more, but there are other verbs that do the same thing.
Can I ask a question about
Of course,
about gnoskomen?
yes.
Okay, so he shows us present tense. Sorry, excuse me. Active voice, but that's actually future tense middle voice, right?
Where are you looking?
Sorry, this is page 215.
Okay, yeah.
He has gnosko
That's right.
and gnosomai.
Right.
That is a middle voice, right?
Yes. The
Okay.
Oman tells you, so it's
Right. Okay.
it's middle, it's deponent
It's deponent
in
the
the future,
It's
but not in the
deponent?
present. Yeah,
in the
the
future.
Omai ending.
He's telling us it's deponent in the future tense.
Yeah, you can see the same thing in
Hmm.
the appendix. Um,
Which it looks as if apoth apothenus
Apothnesco,
apothenumai is also looks to be deponent, right?
apothanomai.
Apothanomai,
Yeah.
apothanomai.
Yes, it is.
Also deponent,
Yeah,
but aro is not.
Okay, so it's not deponent in the present tense, but it's deponent in the future.
that's right.
Yeah, that happens.
Now that's a puzzlement to me. If it's a deponent verb, to me, it should be deponent in all tenses, but that's not the case. A deponent verb, by definition, is a verb that has no active meaning. In the wait a minute, let me say it right. Has no. Oh goodness, I'm going to miss this.
Transitive meaning?
Well, transitivity is connected in there somehow, but I haven't figured that out yet either.
Okay.
I better study that before I say any more about it.
Carl, I'm not sure that we really understand exactly why these things are this
Oh.
way because they don't follow rules the way that our language would.
Yeah.
We wouldn't have such a situation, I don't think.
Well, don't be so quick to say English doesn't.
Oh, no, we have lots of our own problems.
Yeah.
Not this particular one.
Why, for instance, we mentioned drink, drank, and drunk, the principal parts of that verb in English. Why does it change to an alpha, the vowel change to alpha in the past, and then
I don't, I'm not defending our language.
No,
I'm only saying I don't think this is a situation we have in our language and we struggle to describe it. And I wonder if the current Greek has these same things going on and how
modern Greek?
Yeah, modern Greek.
Yeah, I couldn't tell you
if we
about
would
that.
turn to the modern Greek, if we wouldn't understand, but I'm sure the scholars are considering all of this.
Yeah.
But there seems to be disagreement upon the scholars about what to do with it. All right.
Finishing up though, 20.22. What's the point of all this? There are two ways to learn all the tense forms. You can either memorize every tense form of pattern 4 verb, or you can learn the roots and patterns that allow you to identify most of the tense stems, and then to memorize the few that are especially difficult. That's what he's recommending. And in that chart in the appendix, all the verbs that occur 50 times or more, he's identified the ones that he thinks ought to be memorized. And I think I agree with that.
And that he says which ones ought to be memorized?
Yeah.
Okay, where does it say that?
Well, I don't know if he does it in this 4th edition, but the earlier editions of the book had them identified which ones he thought should be memorized.
Where does that table start?
Page 450.
I can't, yeah, I don't see that. That's why I'm asking. I don't
Um,
see if it says somewhere. It has all those footnotes on everything.
yeah,
This just seems to be without comment about whether you ought to memorize them.
oh. Here, in this book, this is the second edition,
Ah,
which I like better. He's got them underlined, the ones he thinks ought to be memorized.
oh, okay. I don't see that in our edition.
No, I don't either.
Okay, well, that's fine. I don't know that it matters to me which it is.
Well, I've tried to memorize most of these verbs, but it's hard.
So for apathon, he actually doesn't give an explanation for why the eta shows up.
No, he doesn't.
Present tense. Okay. All right. Got it. Okay.
Okay. Now we've got vocabulary. Should we go through it tonight, or should we leave that for you to do on your own? We've got iro, which means I raise, take up, take away. Apokteno. Apo is the prefix, and the root is kten. Apostello, another compound. Apo plus stel. Oh, by the way, apokteno means I kill. Apostello means I send away. This is where we get the word apostle from. Baptizo, baptize, dip, or immerse. Gnosko, this is an important verb. It means I know or come to know, realize or learn, or even understand. Glossa means it's a noun meaning tongue or language. Egero means I raise up or wake up. Ekbalo, I cast out, send out, throw out. Eke is an adverb, there or in that place. Krino is a liquid verb. Stem is krin. I judge, I decide, or I prefer. Laos is a noun, meaning people or crowd. Meno, another liquid verb. I remain or I live. You could say I stay. Horao is another very important verb. I see, I notice, or I experience. Now notice with horao, you've got three different roots. For the present tense, it's hora. For the future, it's op. And for the, I can't remember what tense it's for. But anyway, it's got three different roots.
Meno. That's odd that he says live because there's another verb that means live,
Oh,
right?
yes, yes.
So this is really not live in that sense.
Just I stay in a certain place.
Yeah, I stay in a place. This is not a very good glyph. What I'm saying is you wouldn't use it that way.
No,
Okay.
I don't know where it's translated that way.
Okay.
But back to horao. Hora is used to form horao and heoraka. The op root is used to form opsamai and ophthane. Wid is used to form adon, which is aorist. Okay, then Sophia is a noun meaning wisdom. Philosophy, we get from that, the love of wisdom. Stoma is another noun meaning mouth. We get, and then sozo means I save, deliver, or rescue. That's a very common noun. And another, sometimes sozo is translated heal. Heal. All right, he does talk in the advanced
I save, I
information.
deliver, I heal you, I rescue you, I heal you.
Well, it depends on the context. We'll see some. I'll find some where it means I heal. Well, I think I could find one right now.
Sure, we've translated it as heal. That's interesting. I've healed you from your disease.
Yeah.
Is that
Well-
where we get soteriology from?
Yes, it is.
I've saved you from your disease.
Well, actually, it's
Yeah.
from the noun form, soter, which means
Oh,
savior,
Okay.
but it's related to sozo.
And that's fine. We have a different word in English that we've got called heal,
Mhm.
which means to cure or remove a disease. But
Mhm.
they say, I've rescued or delivered you or saved you from your disease. There isn't a different separate word.
Yeah.
All right.
Let's stop reading, and we've got a little more time. Would you like to get started in some of the exercises and work together?
yeah. Let's see how it goes.
Me.
Okay. We normally go through the parsing and then the warm-up. I think I'll leave the parsing for you to do. I've got the answers written out so you can refer to that if you need to, but let's go to the warm-up.
I think I had a question and I'm
You
gonna.
did? About the parsing?
Yeah.
Well, we
Okay,
can,
maybe this is stupid and I'll think so after I ask it, but I wrote it down here. Well, actually, it's two of them. On number 9,
all right. Baptises.
baptises. Hey, isn't there supposed to be an accent
There is on the iota.
on the iota?
Baptises.
Or maybe okay. Why did I think? Maybe my question had to do with, I thought there should be an accent after that because it's liquid.
Oh, no, this is not a
It's
liquid.
not a liquid, is it?
No.
Okay, never mind. I knew it would be stupid. All right.
No, it's not stupid.
And the next one is crenete, right?
Frenata, yeah.
Crenete.
Freno is a stem.
And I asked a question. See, I did this like 2 weeks ago. Why is the lexical show ecrinomen?
Acrinomen.
Ecrinomen.
Where do you see that? Oh, you looked in the
The
lexical.
lexical. Why does the
Okay,
lexical show
That epsilon in the front of the stem is called an augment. We don't get to augments until chapter 21.
Okay, fair enough. Because I looked at that and wondered why in the world
Yeah.
do I have this lexical form? Okay.
You use an augment in the imperfect tense and the aorist tense. And it's equivalent to us adding an ed to the end of a verb to make it past tense.
I don't remember what I saw in the lexical. If you humor me for a minute,
All right.
is what if we look it up, what is the actual
Right.
lexical form? 'Cause I just did this 2 weeks ago.
Crino,
It's crino.
yeah.
That must have been one of the ones in the list, right? Not the actual
Yeah.
lexical entry. All right, fair enough. I don't know what I was.
You're looking for it in the back of our book.
Yeah. Since I asked a dumb question, I thought I'm sure I
It's not a dumb
satisfied
question.
myself. It's
Uh,
like, once you
page
see.
Page 491, near the bottom on the left column. Crino, I judge, decide, or prefer.
Oh, it's not, wait a minute, where? 491? Oh,
Yeah, 491, bottom, near the bottom, left
Oh.
column. Crino, I judge, decide, prefer. Now, the word in
Yeah.
parentheses is the imperfect tense, which is based on the present tense, but it starts with an epsilon, which is the augment.
That was my question, and it is in parentheses because.
Because it's not one of the tense forms, it's,
That's because I didn't realize why there were parentheses, and we had a subsequent discussion,
That's
and it's
right.
not typically there. It's an absent form.
yeah, it's
Most
not a
books don't
tense
have.
form because it's the imperfect tense. It's a separate tense, but it's not a separate tense form, like the present tense. There are 6 tense forms. or principal parts.
We talked about this like last week, didn't we?
I think so.
And I'm looking at this here. I have 6. And this is not, and
He doesn't
So-
show the imperfect tense.
this is imperfect here. Oh, and I put parentheses
Parentheses.
because in the
Oh.
lists, he
Oh.
shows the imperfect
Oh.
tense, but it's not normally shown in the lexicon.
That's because if it isn't shown in our books,
It doesn't have it
lexicon, that it doesn't occur in
in
that,
the New Testament.
that tense doesn't occur in the New Testament.
All right, Zach, you didn't hear this. We were, so this is good for everybody. So in the lexicon, if you find a form of a verb that's in the parentheses, it's because it's that imperfect form,
Imperfect tense.
imperfect tense of the verb. And most of the verbs we have don't seem to have that tense in the New Testament.
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
Okay.
In
And
chapter
yeah.
21, we will learn the imperfect tense, and that will explain why it has that augment. But it's based on the present tense
Okay.
stem, which we've
And
learned.
that completely answered my question. Now because I looked at that and said, that's not the future tense form. What is going on? What is that thing in parentheses? Thank you,
Yeah.
Carl.
All right. You want to do a few in the warm-up section so we get some practice with this, or should we? Do you feel confident enough to do that?
I'll do my
I'll
best.
walk you through
I
it.
have my answers written down. So.
You do?
Yeah, I actually got through number 8, so I'm fairly well prepared.
Okay.
But that's okay. Go ahead. I'm just
Ekanos, that's the demonstrative pronoun.
Crene.
Um,
Crene.
crine with the circumflex accent
Yeah.
on the
Judge.
that's a flag that ought to tell you that it's a liquid future. The
Right.
stem is crin, which is a nasal, or it's categorized with liquids.
Right. So the
And,
sigma drops out.
So the tense formative for that is epsilon sigma, and the sigma drops out and causes the consonants to contract, the vowels to contract, and it puts a circumflex accent over the contracted syllable. The best clue for me is that circumflex accent.
Yeah.
Okay, so will judge. Okay, now the subject is ekanos. Well, actually, it's an adjective or pronoun which acts like an adjective, but it's used substantively. That one. But if you got more of the context, previously it talked about the word which I spoke. So halagos is the antecedent of ekanos.
Right.
So that word will judge auton him, ante escate hemera, in the last day.
Yes.
I think they should have added a little more context so you could tell what the antecedent of
Yeah,
the
what you
canis
do with
was.
the that, really, you can't tell what the that is
Yeah.
without it, but okay.
Paloi gar elusantai epi to onomatimu. You want to do that one,
Sure,
Dave?
let's see here. Many will come for many will come
Mhm.
on the basis of the name of me, or in my name. You could say in my name, but on the basis of the name of me.
Okay. Now, going back to that elusantai, that's our verb. This is it's a verb that has two different roots. In the present tense, the root is erk,
Right.
epsilon rho chi. And the lexical form is erkomai. That means I come or I go. But it has a different root in the future, not erk, but elus. And elusantai is it's a deponent verb because it ends with, elusamai is the first person singular of the future that tells you it's a deponent, but ontai is the third plural ending. So this is they will come or go.
So the many counts as that person.
Yeah, many people. For many people will come in my name. Or you could simply say, for many will come in my name. Is this clicking with you, Zach?
Yeah, what I don't have at this point, evidently, I mean, I wasn't going to get that a Lusantai was Urkomai.
Yeah, I know you wouldn't.
So I think I need some vocabulary work still.
Yeah.
And I need to write down what some of the patterns and some of these facts about them to say, like, hey, this is the root in whatever tense. And I think if I went through the process of finishing those vocab cards and writing down the pattern that it is and details that I need to remember, I'd have a fighting chance aside from just using an analytical lexicon to say that's what that is. But otherwise, I'm looking at that going, what, is that verb?
I agree. I think that's a good plan if you have time for it. But one other thing that would help, I believe, is this chart in the appendix of all the verbs that are used 50 times or more.
Yeah.
If you look on page 454, near the bottom, erkomai is listed in the first column. That's the present tense. The second column is future, and it shows elusamai. And that's one of the ones that ought to be memorized. And aelthon is the third column, that's aorist, and that comes from another root. It's got 3 different roots for different tenses.
Where does that start again? That 50 times or more?
450, I think. Yeah. And I'll tell you what I'm going to do.
It goes for a bit. Got it.
Several pages.
Yeah.
He doesn't divide up where the verbs are. Like, okay, so on that page, 454, that's not all one verb.
Oh, no.
And so
above that horizontal.
each one of these is a verb. Each line is a verb.
Yeah, each line is a verb.
I'm sorry, never mind.
No, I marked up my book.
Yeah. I remember now. And
I've got the chapter it occurred in, the meaning of the verb, and I put a heading on the column on the first page, but I think I'm going to make a copy from my book of this chart for you to have handy. It's something that
is it alphabetically laid out? How is it done?
Yes, according to the Greek alphabet.
Oh.
Yeah, it looks that way. Okay. All right. Yeah. Okay.
Why don't I see? I'm having trouble finding Urkamai now.
Each
Each line
is a
got
verb.
it.
Yeah.
Now I see it. Urkamai, elusamai, healthon, elelutha.
Elelutha.
Thank you, elelutha. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the perfect tense. And it has dashes in the 5th and 6th. That means they don't occur in the New Testament in that tense.
Okay. All right.
A lot to learn, isn't it?
Yeah.
It is. Yep.
I didn't learn it thoroughly my first time through. Probably not even a second time through, but I have the advantage of going through it more often.
I'm being, I mean, I'm just being level honest with you. I can't recognize these, much of it I don't recognize when I'm just reading it.
Yeah,
I have to look these things up. And, so Zach, I think you do better than I do with recognizing most of it. But, I think it's just what I have right now.
yeah.
And so I'm thankful that I can go through this and learn it. Even without that memorizing, it's still helpful for me to read that way. Then I can understand it as I work through it.
Mhm.
It still services to understand how the language is put together, to pick it out and appreciate it.
Mhm.
It makes a huge difference.
Um, can we, wind up this session? I want to talk to you guys about something.
Okay, you want to stop here? We finished,
Yeah, let's,
we did 2 or 3? 2 of them.
we did 2 of them.
All right, put a little mark there. Then we can decide what we want to do. All right, you would like to say
Yeah,
goodbye to our recording? Have a good night, everybody.
good night.
Good night.
No, stop it. I want to